17 years ago, I had my first Meniere's attack. Of course, at the time, I had no idea what it was. It was about 3 years before I actually got a diagnosis of what was going on. And went through all the typical regimens, medications, pills, different things, trying to deal with it and control it.
Could you talk up a little bit more?
And at times it would be multiple attacks throughout a year. There was a space of about 3 years where I didn't really have any significant attacks. But then about a month and a half ago, I was working out in Spring Lake, and I stood up and I turned to the right, and all of a sudden my left ear, now the Meniere's I had was only in my right ear. All of a sudden in my left ear I have a roaring sensation, a high-pitched sound, but no pressure, but a lot of noise, and it was somewhat debilitating. After 3 days, I finally mentioned it to my wife. If this just go away, I'm going to have to do something. The next morning I woke up and she was talking like Charlie Brown's teacher, and I couldn't understand anybody's talking. So I couldn't converse on the phone, I couldn't talk to people at work, I couldn't talk to clients, I wasn't able to couldn't listen to music, just the sound was just so distorted. So I made an appointment with my ENT, and he got me in that morning. He put me on prednisone straight away. And while I'm waiting in the doctor's office, my wife had put on Facebook that this had happened, and sent out some prayer requests. And thankfully I have a smartphone, so I got texts and emails coming in. And within a half an hour, 3 people had mentioned this man's name, and you need to go see this guy. So my wife called, and thankfully he was able to see me the next day. So I started the prednisone and came in to see Dr. Burcon, and he asked some of these questions about auto accidents. And yeah, there was one. It was about 15 years before that. And about 2 years before that, I actually got in a sledding accident. I was 16 at the time, I think, and I was knocked unconscious for half a minute or so. I went to the doctor. You have a concussion, and you have to be careful with that. So I completely forgot all about those things and never made any connection with that and what was going on. So he took some x-rays, checked me on the table, and found that, I don't remember the names of the bones, but there was one that was out of place, and he did an adjustment. And, by the time I left that day, I mean, I really wanted it to work. It's like, maybe the tinnitus is a little bit better, but I couldn't really tell. So we went home. That was a Friday. I woke up the next morning, and my wife whispers in my ear. She says, "I love you." And I could hear that. Mm-hmm. So this was a year that was recently affected. It was actually worse. My hearing was worse in this year than this year. So this is the year she was reading. So I turned this side. I said, this one too. And fuck. So anyway, I could hear better in this year, and that was cause for praise. Now, for the next several days, my hearing continued to get better and better and better. Now, came back to see Dr. Burcon on Monday. He looked me over, so doesn't need to be another adjustment. I came back again the next Friday, went through that process again, and things were still going well. My hearing was continuing to improve. Now, the day before, I went to my ENT, and they did a hearing test, which they had done the week before, and noticed a dramatic reduction in my hearing. So this one, I knew that my hearing had improved back significantly. It wasn't where it was years ago, but it was much better in this year. And this year seemed to be better than it had been actually before this event. So they did the hearing tests, and they showed me, yeah, it's much better than, and while I'm waiting for the doctor to come talk to me, I could hear the ENT, the doctor, and the audiologist, or whatever they call those folks, talking out in the hallway. Which I
Of course,
thought that was pretty good.
they didn't know you could hear them. So.
So I could hear them both exclaiming, he's improved in both ears remarkably. They're surprised and happy for me, probably happy for themselves that the prednisone works so well. And so then the doctor comes in. He says, you should be a very happy man, and I am. I'm a very happy man. I'm very pleased with what's transpired here as far as the improvement of my hearing. And he went on to tell me that it generally doesn't happen this fast or this well, and that I explained to him that I had hundreds of people praying for me. That I'd also come to see Dr. Burcon, who's a chiropractor, and he's like, well, and let me hear me out on this, So I wanted to explain the story of how I came across him and what he did and the process, and his research about 15 years, and he said, really, what was that guy's name again? What's his name? And so he wrote it down. But my hearing has continued to improve since then, since I've gone off the prednisone. Obviously, the next week after I was weaned off of that, my hearing continued to improve in both ears, to the point where I'm back at what I was before in this year, and this year is better than it's been in 5 years or better. So.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Okay. Have a great day.